Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. So this is a tutorial for this bucket hat modelled by the lovely Joan here. Now this is a kind of granny bucket hat with a normal brim, and this is made with some yarn that was sent to me in Happy Mail, and I don't have a skein to show you. I have just the band. It is I Love This Cotton. It is beautiful. It's an Aran weight, a 4-weight cotton. So in this country we don't often see 4-weight cottons. If you find one, you're lucky, but I have one in my shop, which is hobbyrocks.co.uk, and it is the Savannah, the Stylecraft Savannah cotton, but it's not colourful like this one. The one that I'm going to be doing my tutorial with is the same yarn as this, but it's called denim, something denim, and is this the band for it? I did have another one. This is, heaven knows, can't really. Okay, let's put the glasses on. Am I going to see it? Now this is the Brights one, this is that one, but the other one is denim. So the reason that I'm coming on and showing you the tutorial, I want to just give you a few words, because when I made this one I used a 5.5mm crochet hook, but I've got a feeling that I used a 5.5 for the crown and then I dropped to a 5, or I might have made it with a 5mm crochet hook. When I do the tutorial I use a 5.5 and it does come up a bit bigger, so this one is too big really for Joan. It fits me. I'd model it, but they look hideous. Oh, okay. Don't laugh. They do. Hats don't suit me. They look hideous. So here we go. This is how it looks on me. It fits me perfectly. So what I'm going to say then is, sorry Joan, while you're making it, if it doesn't look too bad actually, maybe it doesn't look good when I've got my hair up, I don't know, but when you're making it, when you get to see how it's coming, this part here, if it looks too big then you need to drop down your hook to maybe a 5. The smaller the hook, the smaller the hat. So if you wanted to make it for a teenager or maybe a kid, then you just drop your hook size down. But if that means your yarn is too stiff, you can also go down the size of your yarn, but obviously it just gets smaller and smaller. Now I will show you on the tutorial what you can do if you can't get hold of Aran weight yarn, you've only got double knitting. I will show you how to get around that, and it works. So also by dropping down the crochet hook size a little bit, it's not quite so drapey, it does get a little stiffer. So that's all I wanted to tell you on this part. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to pause it. When I come back I'll start the tutorial. Well, I'll start the chat with you. Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this bucket hat, and it's ever so easy, and I'm sure a beginner could tackle it. So if you just bear with me a second while I get set up, but in the meantime, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. I'll be right back with you and show you how to do this. Okay, so this yarn is a 4-weight Aran yarn, and this I was very kindly sent as Happy Mail. It's I Love This Cotton, super soft, super saving print, and this was a rainbow colour called Brights, and so I was sent this as Happy Mail. But if you were in the UK and you couldn't get hold of an Aran cotton, although I do sell one in my shop, I'll put a link in the description box to that. It's called Savannah. It's really beautiful, very soft cotton. If you couldn't get hold of that though, or you didn't want to buy any more yarn, I've used 2 strands of a DK weight. I've put them double-stranded, as I said, and made it with, or made the beginning to see if it works out the right dimensions. So I needed my inner circle here to be 4.5 inches, and as you can see, that's probably got to get to the widest point. It's exactly 4.5 inches, so that would work out really well. It would also make your hat just a little bit stiffer, because it is, and if it was too big at any point and not drapey enough, if you drop down one size of crochet hook, which I'll come to in a moment, it would be even stiffer. But this one is quite floppy. I'm just going to put this tape measure over there. I do expect it to roll off onto the floor at some point. So this is quite drapey and willowy, but I don't mind that. It does mean that the brim does kind of, I won't say pucker, but you know what I mean? It just is floppy, but it's actually very, very nice. I really like this one. I wouldn't really want it to be any stiffer, but I do understand if you do. So that's the yarn. The hook that I've used is a 5.5 millimeter. So as I said, if you find at any point it's a little too big, then just drop down to a 5 or a 4.5, or if you want to make it for children, you can even drop down to a 4. But of course it will make it sturdier, which, you know, some people might like. So for this tutorial, I'm going to use the same yarn, but in this beautiful blue colours. And this is called Denim Blue. It's part of the Happy Mail that I received. So I'm going to make it in this. And as I said, I'm going to use a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. You do need a darning needle, but thankfully, because I didn't change colour every round, which you can do, of course, I only had 2 ends to sew in, the one at the very top and the one at the very bottom, and also a pair of scissors. So that's what we're going to use. I'm just going to pause it again while I clear all of this out of the way and actually get started. Okay, so I'm going to leave a fairly long tail for sewing in, and I'm not going to start with a magic loop. I'm going to start with a slip knot. You can do that however you normally would. And also I'm going to chain up 5. So I want them to be quite loose, not tight. So if you're a tight crocheter, really try to make these looser, because you've got to get a lot of work into this ring that I'm about to form. So I'm going to slip stitch into that first one to make a ring. So we've got quite a nice size ring. You can use the yarn, excuse me, to pull it tighter anyway. So I'm going to work over the tail so I can do that. So I'm going to pop my hook into the center and pull up a loop. I've got 2 on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through both of those, and then I'm going to go into this left hand side post, and I'm going to just pop in, pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull through both. That is called a stack. In the US, they'll call it a stack single. We'll call that a stack double crochet. But that gets me up to the height for my, and acts as my first UK treble or US double crochet. And yarn over, go back into the center of the ring and do 2 UK trebles or US double crochets. Now, when you're working with cotton, sometimes if this part here is too baggy, it can pucker, and I always undo that stitch and do it again just to make sure it's not got any bulgy parts. It's just the joys of working with a cotton yarn. I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to do a further 3 in the same ring. And I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to do another 3, but altogether you want to have 5 segments, so 5 shells. Normally when you're doing a granny square you'll have 3, but we want 5 this time, so I'm going to do another set of 3, and chain 1 and carry on. So I'll pause it then, and I'll come back to you once I've got my 5, and then I'll show you how I do my join. Okay, so I have my 5 shells or 5 segments. Now I'm going to, normally people might then chain 1 and do a slip stitch and slip stitch all the way along till they get to this chain space. I don't do that. I don't like the way that looks, and so I'm going to go into my first. The beauty of the stack stitch is that you get a stitch that looks normal. So I'm going to go into that first stitch, go through the 2 loops, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both of those. So now I have the same gap as all of my chain spaces, and I'm going to work into this one, which we are in now. And I'm going to start off by doing my stack stitch. So that's making a UK double crochet or a US single, going into this side post and pulling up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So I've got my first treble, and I'm going to do 2 more. Of course, that's a double crochet in the US, treble crochet in the UK. Okay, so that is half of the stitch I'm going to do in this segment, because each one of these chain spaces is going to be treated like a traditional granny square corner. But normally I would not chain in between them, but I'm going to this time, and I'll tell you why when I get to that point. So in here, I'm going to do what we would normally consider a granny square corner by doing 3, just the same as I have there, 3 stitches. One chain and 3 in the same space. Pull it over if you have to, so that it looks more even. And I'm going to do a chain, even though if I was making a square I wouldn't be chaining there. On my squares I only ever chain at the corner, but I'm chaining in between each of my double shells. So I'm going to do another kind of granny square corner in this chain space. So we're just working in the chain spaces, and we had a total of 5 in our beginning, 5 shells, and we will now at the end of this have 10. I have to do one more in there. Okay, so we have our full one there, a full one there, and a half there. So in the next one, don't forget to do the chain in the between. Okay, so I'm going to pause this video, and I'll catch up with you when I get back to that very first one, and I'll show you how we finish this off. But it's a little boring just to watch me go all the way around. So that's all we're doing. We are doing 3, 1 chain, 3, 1 chain, 3, 1 chain, 3 in the same space, 1 chain. I'll catch up with you at this point here. Okay, so we're now making a hexagon, as you can see. So I've done my last chain, and I'm going to finish this corner, if you like, and by just doing 3 in the same space. Okay, so there we are. There's 2 sets of 3, and I'm going to go into the top of my stack stitch there in exactly the same way as before, and do a UK double US single crochet to join it. Okay, so now we have our hexagon, and things are going to get a little bit different, because we don't want to continue increasing into these here, otherwise we will continue to have a hexagon. So we're going to do our increases in the sides now, in these ones here, which is why I wanted a chain space, to make that little section there big enough to have 6 stitches in. Okay, so now in the points we're going to just make our 3. So I'm going to start off with my stack as before, exactly the same, except I can't get that loop out the way to get in. That's probably gone a bit baggy. The trouble with cotton, sometimes if you it will kind of give you a baggy loop or a baggy stitch. I always undo that one. I don't want any kind of untoward large loops. It does, I don't know, it's quite, you know, cotton. That's what cotton does. So I always undo that one. And now I'm going to do 2 more in there. And at the moment I'm still doing my chain, and now I'm going to do the same as this here into the side. So I'm going to make 3, one chain, and I'm going to pull it over a little bit because it doesn't give it room otherwise, and do 3 more. See what I mean? There we go. It's got a pucker, that little bit there. I don't like the way that looks, so I'm going to undo that one. It's just the way that cotton does that sometimes. If you're kind of tighter on the bottom loops, it doesn't do it. It's just if you've got too much slack on that first part, it can make that large loop. I don't like it. So just personal preference, I just get rid of it. Okay, so we're going to do our 1 chain, and then in our peak we're just going to put 1, and it's kind of even in that hexagon shape back into a square, but it will still be a square with some cornering at the moment because we are still increasing. So this is my increase here in the side. If I go too fast, just by all means pause me and catch up. Likewise, if you are more advanced and you kind of understand this, then, you know, just fast forward me until you get back to the start again and catch up with me there. So don't forget the chain, and we're going to do our 1 cluster, segment, shell, whatever you want to call it, in our peak. Okay, let's stop and have a look. What we're doing now then is we're going to do a corner. We're going to call them corners because it's easier. Although they're not corners, are they, in the hat? But we're going to do our corner, our single shell, chains in between, corner, single shell, corner, and then I'll catch up with you here and I'll show you what we do next. Okay, so I've made it all the way around and we're not quite so hexagonal now. We've still got these little peaky bits here, but we're all the way around, and we should have 15 now, 15 shells or whatever you want to call them. So I'm going to go into that top one there and do my UK double, US single to join. Okay, now this is our final increase round coming up here, so I won't chain in between my segments anymore. I will just chain in between my increases, back to normal for me. So now we measure it, and it is roughly 4.5 inches. So as I said at the beginning, if you were doing your 2 strands of DK, you can see it's exactly the same size. The ends fell off my tape measure. That's I'll put that right in a minute. Okay, I'm going to pop that over there. I don't need that anymore. So in this round, we're going to do our last lot of increases. And we're going to do that not at this point. We're going to do it at the point just before our last increase. So I'm going to do my 3. That might be a baggy loop. Let's get rid of that. I'm going to start off the same way as before. So obviously this part isn't easy to show you, because when we get to this section here, it'll be a bit more understandable. So in this next one, because it is just before our increase, we're going to do an increase in there. Pull it over a bit. Make some space. So again, no chain in between because I'm not making space anymore. I'm just going to do one shell in there because that's the bit that was the previous point. And in the next one, because it's not before an increase, it's just 2, I'm going to do 3 in there. and then in the next one an increase. So we should, apart from that very first part, we will have 3 3 increase. Remember, no chaining in between apart from where we have the increase. Did I not do the increase? No. Let's go back. I'm getting carried away talking. So this is the increase. We've got 3 3 increase. So obviously I do want to chain there, and you have to keep your wits about you. It helps not to be talking about it as you're doing it. So I'm doing my increase. I could hear you all shouting at me. That's what it was. Okay, no chain. In the peak part, we're going to do an increase. We're not going to do any. We're going to do 3. Oh my goodness. I'm going to be quiet. Okay, so now we are going to do another 3, and then that increase just before this one. So I'll do this one with you, and then I'll pause it, and I'll catch up with you at the end. Okay, so now we've got our 3 and our 3. We're doing our increase because it's just before our previous one. This time I will do it. I blame the fact that it's getting really hot in here. So while I'm pausing it, I'm going to go and put some fan on or cool myself down. Okay, I'm going to pause it then. So what we're going to do now is 3 3 increase, 3 3 increase, 3, and then I'll catch up with you at that point. Okay, so there I am. I've finished all my increase. I'm back at the start again. So I just want to show you the yarn that I had made the first hat with. This is how much I had left. So that ball is, and I am not the loosest crocheter. So I just want to show you then, if I can find it, how many yards, or here we are. So we've got 140 meters, 153 yards. So you want at least that to make this hat. So bear that in mind if you are doubling up yarn like this one, that you will need, how much you'll need. So I just wanted to let you know that. Okay, so we have now finished our increases. There'll be no more. I just need to slip stitch, and I've done that a little tight. Slip stitch into my first one, not slip stitch, but I'm going to draw up a loop and do exactly the same as I have been. I'll make my UKWS single. It's just a force of habit saying slip stitch. Okay, so now I'm going to continue just putting one shell in each chain space. Well, not chain space anymore, are they? They're each space. These ones are chain spaces. We didn't chain between them. So I'm going to start with the one I'm in, just as before. Don't want that loop to be too baggy because it will be ugly. We don't want an ugly loop. Okay. So what we're going to do now is our start as usual. I know that when you do this, it does feel as if you're a little further over, but you cannot see where that is. It looks just normal. So we're going to put a shell of just 3 UK trebles, US doubles in every space around. And this is now going to start cupping up to make it the bucket hat shape, but it does take a few rounds before you will see that. That's because it's a granny stitch and it really doesn't look oh, gone in there as well. It just doesn't look as dramatic as on some hats, but it's going to, honestly, because we're now no longer increasing, it will do that. Okay, nice and simple. In between every cluster, just one cluster of 3, which can be a little boring to watch me go all the way around. So I will pause the video and catch up with you when we get back to the start. There we are, just one in each. You can see it's kind of getting more rounded shaping. Okay, so I'm going to pause it then. I'll catch up with you when we get back here, and I'll tell you what to do for the rest of the body of your hat. Okay, so I'm all the way round and it's starting to get more of a round shape. If you should find you have any like little peaks and corners, then you need to make sure you haven't accidentally increased. Okay, so I'm going to join in the same way and I'm going to carry on now without any further increasing until my hat, I can't reach my little model. Okay, so this is Joan, this is my model. So when I put the hat on myself, it needs to come to my eyebrows. So once I get to that point where the granny stitches meet my eyebrows, then I'm going to start the brim. So for me, that was a total from the center of 14 rounds, 14 altogether, including that very first one. Once I got to there, that reached my forehead, and so I started on the brim. Okay, but that might depend upon the size of your head. We're all different. So you might have one more, you might have one less. So I'm going to leave you then to carry on without any further increasing, no chains in between, just granny segments in the spaces. And once you've got that to the top of your eyebrows, then come back to me and I will show you how to do the brim. Here we are. So when you first look at it, it just looks way too wide, but if I put it on top of the previous one, they are identical in size, so you know it's all good. Okay, so what we do now is we have got to our last round and we have joined. So now we're just going to work in our stitches. We're not going to go in the spaces anymore. So in my first one, I'm just going to draw up a loop. I'm not going to chain, and I'm going to make a UK double crochet, which is a single in the US, and I'm going to do that in every single stitch around. Every one. So if it will help you to place a stitch marker in your first one, then by all means please do that, but I shall find mine quite easily, so not to worry. But it is a simple round of one in every single stitch all around. Now it will look like it's puckering together there, sort of bringing it closer, but that's really what we want it to do, so that's fine. Okay, so that can be a tad boring, as I said before, so I'm going to pause this video and do one in every single stitch until I get back to my first one, and I'll catch up with you at that point. Okay, back at the start again, so I'm just going to slip stitch now into my first stitch. Okay, so now we want to make this brim, like a bucket hat, start to come out a little bit. So we're going to do an increase round. And what that means is in every single stitch, every one, even the first one we come into, I'm going to put 2 stitches. So the same stitch, the UK double or US single crochet, but I'm going to put 2 in every single stitch around. So we're just going to double our stitch count. Nice and simple. This hat is quite simple. Once you've done it a couple of times, you don't even really need to refer to notes. Sorry, I'm using a wall genie and my yarn got stuck then. Didn't really, because it's getting quite low, the ball, it's kind of finding it a little harder to just, you know, move around. Okay, nice and simple, but it will be boring to watch, so I'll pause this then. I'm going to put 2 in every single stitch all the way around. We're doubling it, and I'll come back to you once you get back to the start. Okay, so I'm all the way round. I just need to now slip stitch into my first stitch. Now we're not going to do any more increasing, that's it. And we're going to just carry on doing 1 stitch in each one all the way around until we've got the brim the length that we want, and that's your personal preference. It also depends on the yarn, because as I showed you that little ball which has seemed to, oh here it is, that's all I had left, of my first one, and I didn't think it might have gone round one more time, but I didn't want to chance it. Plus, when I put it on my head, the brim came to just where my, kind of shielded my eyes. But I know that some people like to have a longer brim, some shorter. So what I did here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds, including the 2 I've just done. So another 4 rounds and I will have my brim the same length as this. But it's really kind of up to you how long you want it. Just a little word on this yarn. I absolutely love it. I loved working with it. It's beautiful yarn, and I just wish that I could get it easily in this country, and I can't. So, but you can use any cotton yarn that you want. I've shown you that you can double it up if it's a DK. You can even use one colour, one plain, just to kind of give it that different sort of marble effect. So now I'm just going to go round and do another 4 rounds of just doing 1 in every single stitch around, and that's going to be the end of our brim. So I'm going to pause it then, and I'll come back to you once I've done those, because they are all the same and you know how to do that. So I'll come back to you once I've finished the whole length of the brim. Okay, so I've made it all the way around, and what I'm going to do now is before I join, I'm going to cut my yarn. I'm going to leave a nice long tail, and I'm going to pull that through. So I know I've not finished off, but I'm going to get a darning needle, and I want this kind of large hole, but not too big. Now this is the part that I always kind of struggle on camera with. It goes straight in for me any other time. But let's just have fingers crossed. No, it's not going to, is it? Cotton yarn's not as squishy as acrylic, and it doesn't want to go in. But I don't want to get the one with a very large eye. There we go. We are in. So I'm going to show you how I then did my hat, because I wanted the edge to be completely unnoticeable. So here is our last stitch. I'm going to get my darning needle. There's our first one. I'm going to go backwards through both loops and bring that through. So I've made this part. Now I'm going to go into this one, and I'm going to go to the next bit down as well, because I find it anchors it a little bit better. So I'm just going to pull that through, and now as you can see, you cannot see that. So I'm going to hold that with my thumb because I don't want it to get any bigger, and I'm just going to go through this stitch here to make a knot. So I think I messed up there. I need a longer tail. So I'll do it again, leave that one in place. Just going to go through, and then I'm going to go back through my loop. I'm going to make that loop smaller, and I'm going to put my needle back through and pull it so it becomes a knot. And as you can see, the top looks like you can't see the join. So now I'm just going to use the row of stitching to bury this tail. But when you do, you want to make sure it's not visible from either side. You can't see that. I'm going to go all the way along a little way and pull that. Okay, so you've just buried that. Now I'm going to go back the other way, but I'm going to split this stitch or go the one behind it. The one behind it looks good. And then I'm going to go back through the other way. And again, make sure you can't see that from the other side. And you can't. There we are. So that's now buried. You can go back and forth as many times as you want. I'm just going to cut that. And now all I need to do is turn my hat inside out and do the same with this tail, which I didn't leave long enough. But because it's not a magic loop, that doesn't matter too much. It's not coming undone and it's buried inside. So that's how we do the hat. So didn't do as many rows on the brim with that one as I did this one. I did 6 on this one here, but that's where my join was. You can see it on the inside because these two yarns are a totally different colour, and there's my little knot, but you can't see that from this angle, which is what I wanted. It's easier to show you on the coloured yarn. But if you find, as I think I mentioned it earlier, that if you find your hat is a little baggy when you start working on it, you could always drop down your hook size to a 5mm. I think if you're doing double up yarn, you won't find it that big anyway. It's sort of more sturdy, but you can always play with the hook size. And likewise, if you want to make it for a younger person with a smaller head, by dropping the hook size, you'll achieve that. Okay, so that's how I made my granny bucket hat. I hope you like this tutorial. Thank you very much for watching, and as I said before, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye for now. Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. It's Tracy here, and this is a tutorial for my new hat. It's the first hat I've actually made on my YouTube channel, although I've made a zillion hats in my time, but for some reason I'd never made one before, only a baby hat. So I'm going to show you how I made this one. It's quite a plain sort of beanie, really, because the yarn is the star. I always say, if it's a plain yarn, you need a good stitch, but if it's a pretty yarn, then that's the star. The stitch should really be plain. So I finished it off with these curly whirlies, and I'm going to do a separate tutorial for the curly whirlies, because that way, if you wanted to make those for a different project, you haven't got to go searching for it. Excuse me while this very slow vehicle goes by. So you don't have to go searching for it. There'll be a separate one. And likewise, if you wanted to just put a pom-pom on it, you could, or anything at all, or just leave it blank. So I'm going to show you the yarn that I used for this. It is one that's in my shop, Hobby Rocks, which is www.hobbyrocks.co.uk. It's Stylecraft Amore Aran, and this is absolutely my favourite colour. This one is called Berry. So that's hence the name of my beanie, although it doesn't take a whole ball. Now this is 100 grams, and I had this much left over, even making the curly whirlies. So I wouldn't say it was half, that you'd get 2 out of it, but it's very near to being half. So I made it with 4 of these curly whirlies on top. Let's just move that out of the way, and I did one in a different colour just to show you, and I put 5 curly whirlies on the top of this one. Now I really like this colour as well, and again, even though I did another extra curly whirly, I still had half the ball left. So I just wanted to see what it looked like in this yarn, because I absolutely love this yarn. I can't remember the name of the colour, but I do have it as well in my shop, and also this one, which is the one I'm going to use today to show you the tutorial. I'm hoping it shows up really well. This one's called Dusk, 3757 Dusk. I can't really tell you about the rainbowy one. I threw the yarn band away, but this one, as I said, is called Berry. Okay, let me tell you, does it give you the dimensions? It's hard to see it on these. There we are. It's 240 meters, 262 yards, and it's an Aran 4 weight. It does have some wool content, but although I'm quite sensitive to wool, I didn't find it irritated me at all. So I'm going to put that one aside, and my 2 hats and the 2 remainder balls, and I'm going to clear all this stuff out of the way. So I'm going to pause it for a second. In the meantime, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and you'll be informed when new videos pop up. So I'm just going to clear all these bits and pieces away and get ready to start, and I'll come straight back to you. Okay, Ready to begin. So you're going to need a darning needle, although there are only 2 ends to sew in. Well, unless you make all those curly whirlies, of course, and that's a different matter. But for the actual hat, and this is the tutorial specifically for the hat, and as I say, the other one will be a separate one. I will also do both a right-handed and a left-handed version, and there'll be a link at the beginning of each video which will point you in the direction of the one you need. So this, you will also need a little pair of scissors, and these are the cute guitar scissors that I got on my website as well recently. Now I'm going to use a soft touch hook, the Amore soft touch, because I've been using recently the tulip reds, which have become my favorite, and I also stock those in my shop, but because they're red, I don't think that it will show the stitches too well. I know this is probably not red yarn, but there are lots of colours. So I wanted one that would really kind of highlight it. So we're going to use this one because it's gold. Now you can either make this with a magic loop, magic ring, whatever you want to call it, or you can use a chain to start. Now I'm going to use a chain to start, and the reason for that is because I want a small hole to get my my bits and pieces into. You don't see the hole once it's all attached, because all of these disappear into it, and then you kind of secure them and sew them in. So I think it would be a little bit difficult to see with a magic ring, so I'm going to go for a chain start. But I don't want a massive hole, so you just need to make a slip knot. You can do that however you normally do, and I'm going to chain 4, and then I'm going to make a ring by slip stitching into the first of those chains. Okay, so I'm going to chain 2. Now normally speaking, when I make a circle of any kind, let's just go down a little bit. When I make a circle of any kind, these 2 start as my first stitch, but in this particular hat they don't, and I'll show you why. When you're making a hat, sometimes if you do that, you will get kind of a gap that goes all the way up your hat. Now you do get a little bit of a wider kind of rib just at one point at the back. That's the only way you know you've got the back and not the front, but that's all there is. So that's why these particular turning chains don't actually count. Let me just move my hat out of the way. So in this ring we're going to do 10 UK trebles or US double crochet. So that's just a simple yarn over into the center of the ring. I'm going to work over my tail, yarn over, so you've got your 3 loops on the hook, and then you yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So that is a UK treble crochet or a US double. So I'm going to do 10. That's my first one. The 2 chain don't count, so I'm going to carry on and do my 10. Now I'm not going to count while you're counting, because that can be really off-putting. So I'm going to pause the video and I'll come straight back to you once I've completed my 10 stitches. Okay, so I've made 10. So if you count your stitches, you will have 10 or 11, including this one, to count. So, but this isn't a stitch, remember. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so now we're going to just completely ignore these, and this is our first stitch here that we want to work into. I'm just going to zoom it so I can show you, because it is kind of mulberry coloured yarn. Okay, so there are our 2 chains, and we're going to go into this stitch here, and we're going to slip stitch into that one, and that's our ring. So we're going to do our 2 chain, which doesn't count, remember, and in every stitch around, so every single, there's our first, our second, our third, we're going to make 2 UK trebles or US doubles in every single stitch around. Hopefully, because I'm zoomed quite away, I'm not going off camera. Okay, so we're going to go in every single one and do an increase. So you'll have 20 stitches, not including those 2 chains as we get around. So I'm going to pause it and I'll come back to you when I get back to here. Okay, so I'm all the way around, and as before I'm going to ignore those 2 turning chains. I've put the light on just so that you can see a little better, and I'm going to slip stitch into the top of my first actual stitch. So what that does as you're working around is it fills that little gap that's usually between with our 2 chain. Okay, so again we're going to chain 2, and what we're going to do now is do an increase and 1 on its own. So in the first stitch I'm going to do a 1 on its own, so this doesn't count, remember. So we're doing 1 stitch, and in our next stitch here we're going to do 2. So we're now increasing on alternate stitches. Okay, so the next one will have 1, and then the next one will be an increase, and we're going to carry on like that all the way around until we get back to our start. Now, because our first one, remember we're ignoring these turning chains, because our first one was 1 on its own, this stitch will be an increase. So I'm going to go all the way around doing that. So 2 in that stitch, 1 in the next, 2 in, 1 in the next, 2 in that one, 1 in the next, and I'll catch up with you when we get back to the start. Okay, so I've got all the way around, and you'll notice it does bow a little bit, which is fine because obviously we don't want the top of our head to be flat anyway, and so it will kind of dome just a little bit. And I think this is really pretty, this yarn. I love this colour. What did I say this one was called? Dusk. I think these colours are working up really well. So anyway, we're going to ignore our 2 chain again, and we're just going to slip stitch into the first actual stitch. Okay, we're going to chain 2 again. Now this time we're going to do our first increase in this first stitch. It will look bunched up because of this, but never mind, it works out. So we're going to do an increase in the very next stitch, and then we are going to do on their own in the next two stitches. We're going to do 1 on its own. So 1 in this one and 1 in this one. So we're now increasing every 3rd stitch. So the next one will be an increase, and then we'll do 2 on their own. And that is our repeat for this round. And the reason I stagger it, so that the first stitch in the previous round was a single, the first stitch in this round is an increase, and the first stitch in the next will be a single. I do that because otherwise it takes on a bit of a hexagon shape rather than a circle. But by staggering the increase at the beginning, or not at the beginning of the sequence, you stop that hexagon shape appearing. Okay, so I just thought I'd explain that. So now I'm going to do 2 on their own, and then I'm going to do my increase, 2 on their own and an increase, and I'm going to go all the way around. And because we started with an increase, we'll finish with 2 single ones. And I'm going to pause it then and catch up with you when we get back to the start again. Okay, so I've made it all the way around. My last 2 were the singles, so now I'm going to ignore those again and just slip stitch into my first proper stitch. Okay, all the way back round again. Now I'm going to chain 2. Now because this one was the increase, it's going to be a single, and we're going to do 3 on their own. So in the first 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, we're going to do 1, and then we're going to do our increase in the next stitch. If I go too fast for you, just pause me. get a bit carried away sometimes and forget to slow down. So now I'm going to do 3 on their own. And then we're going to increase in the next stitch, and that is the repeat all the way around until we get back to the beginning. And as we started on a single, we will end on an increase. So I'm going to carry on and meet up with you when we get back to the start again. Okay, so we're all the way back, ignoring our first 2, and slip stitch into our first proper stitch. Okay, so again, we're going to chain 2. We ended with our increase, so we're starting. So I'm going to do 2 in my first stitch. And then I'm going to do 1 in the next 4. So you kind of see a pattern. We started off with 1 in between our increases, then it was 2 in between our increases, then 3, and now we've got 4. I bet you can tell what's coming next. Okay, so now I'm going to do my increase and then 4 stitches on their own, and we're going to carry on like that all the way around until we get back to the start. So I shall pause it and meet up with you when we get back here. Made it all the way around. I have to say, I love these colours. Don't those blues and this kind of mauve and magenta look lovely together? Absolutely lovely. Anyway, it's going to be my new favourite, I think. Going to slip stitch into the first real stitch again as before. Now this is our last increase row, and I don't know about you, but sometimes when I make beanies or when I see other people's patterns, they seem to be really, really long. I didn't want that for mine. I wanted it to finish kind of top of my forehead and not just be like, could pull it down over my face if I wanted to. So if you feel that it's not long enough for you, then the rounds after the increases stop. All you have to do is put in another couple. If you've kind of, some of us got bigger heads than others. I'm not suggesting that you have a big head, but you know what I mean. Some of us like them to come right down and more of a slouchy kind of beanie and all that sort of thing. But this one fits my head perfectly. So if you want it snug and fit in your head, then you follow me. Otherwise, you can just add in a row or 2 and it'll make it a little bit longer. So this one, we started the previous round with an increase. So this is going to be a single one on its own in our first stitch. And we're going to do 5 on their own. So that's the second. 3. Whoops. And that one is our 5th. And then after we've done 5 on their own, we're going to do our increase. And that's the repeat. 5 on their own and then an increase. I just love the colours in this yarn. It's just beautiful. Look at that blue. It's beautiful. Anyway, I'm going to pause it and I shall catch up with you again. Oh, it's gone dark. Isn't that lovely? When it gets back to the start. Okay, we're all the way round on our last increase row. Just going to slip stitch as before. And I'd finish that round on an increase. So this is how it's looking. Don't worry if it's puckering. Now we're going to start on the rows for the actual front part of our beanie. So 7 rows make up the here we go, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rounds, should I say. 7 rounds make up our initial kind of crown part. So the first 7 rounds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, this is where it will take you up. So this last part here, this is how we kind of get the length, and we're not doing any increasing. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's actually 5 rows, because although this row looks like it's in the rib, this is the row we're starting to go into our stitches to make it. So we're going to do 5 rounds of just normal plain stitches, no increasing at all. So all we're going to do is 1 in each, so not forgetting our first stitch, because remember the 2 chain don't count. So it's very simple, just 1 in every single stitch around, and we're going to do that for about 5 rows. If you think that it's too long, too actually wide, then do 4, but I think we do need the 5. It just depends, I guess, on how big your head is. But if you feel like you need more, if you like your hats to be longer, then by all means do that. But I'm going to do 5. So I'm going to pause it now, and I'll come back to you when I have my 5 rows complete, because they are very simple, just 1 in each, joining with a slip stitch exactly as before. Okay, so it doesn't look finished, does it, by any stretch of the imagination? So now we have 12 rows, including our 7 with our increases and the side rows. So now we're going to start making the cuff, and the last row of the side that we've made will be incorporated into this. Now you can make your brim as wide or as shallow as you like. So if you have kind of miscalculated in the depth of your hat, you just can make an extra long brim, so that's no problem at all. And when you try it on, you'll see just how much it fits. So, okay, how do we do that? Right, let me just pull out some yarn, because I need some. And I'll be with you. There we go. All right then, so we're going to carry on with our 2 chain that don't count as a stitch. Now what we need to do is our very next stitch, which is this one beneath, we're going to do a front post stitch. So we're going to yarn over, we're going to go behind it and come up, so we've got the stitch on our hook, the whole stitch. We're going to yarn over and pull it through, so we have 3 on our hook, and we're going to carry on and do our UK treble or US double exactly the same as normal. So that was a front post. Now we're going to do a back post in the next one. So we're going to yarn over, and we're going to come around the back, and we're going to go around the stitch that way. We're going to yarn over and pull it through. Now that action can be a little tricky, so but once you get used to it, it'll be no problem at all. And then we're just going to finish our stitch, and that is our repeat. So in the next one, we're going to front post. So we're going to go behind the stitch like this, so the stitch is in front, that's why it's a front post. We're going to pull it through, and we're going to finish our stitch. And then the next one was the back post, so the stitch is at the back, and we're going to pull it through. Doesn't matter if you have to maneuver it. Oh, I've gone through the wrong part, that's why. If you have to maneuver it a little bit to get it through, but you'll soon get used to doing that, that's no problem at all. So it's front post, then back post, and that is the repeat all the way around. And just one after the other, all the way until we get back to the start. I'll show you again. Go through the stitch, out through the other side. So the stitch is at the back, and we yarn over and pull it up. And we're going to go front post, exactly the same. Okay, so that's it. That's our repeat. And you can see that the previous row becomes part of our brim, because it is 2 rows that it affects. So I'm going to carry on doing a front post, then a back post, then a front post, then a back post, and I shall catch up with you when we get back to the start. Okay, so I'm almost back, so I just need to do my last stitch, but I wanted to show you because obviously we've got the 2 chain, and I didn't want that to you know, confuse you. So we go in that one, we leave this, which is our chain, and we slip stitch straight away into the first of our stitches, just as we have done all the way around. So it does make the rib a little bit wider at that point, but that's the only sacrifice that we have to make. So we're going to chain 2, and this is our first front post, and you can just about see the back post one there. So we're going to, where we've got a front post stitch, we're going to do a front post into it, and where we've got a back post, we're going to do a back post into it, which will it's very easy. Once you get going, you just go behind this one. It might be a little bit trickier because less of it's showing, and then you go behind and pull your loop through. You soon get used to doing these, and then front post, and the back post is here, just tucked behind a little bit. Now I did, I think, 6 rounds, I always call them rows, 6 rounds of the brim, but you can stop whenever you feel that your ribbed band is wide enough, and you can try the hat on and see if you need to do more or less. But this is only our second row, and as you can see, it already looks like we've got 3. So it's just whatever you feel once you're done. Some people like a really wide brim, just pulling out some yarn, and some not necessarily. So it's just however, when you look at it, however it kind of pleases you, really. You can please yourself. So one thing I will say about this beanie is it really works up very, very fast, which is brilliant. So this one is a back post, and the next one front post, and then the back post. So we're just going to carry on front posting into our front posts and back posting into our back post, and we just do that for several rounds. I will come back to you when I get to the end of this round, just so that I can show you how to go over this part again. But after that, I will pause it and come back to you when it's finished. So I'll meet up with you at the beginning of this round, at the end, which is back at the beginning. You know what I mean. Okay, so here we are back at the start. So I've got my last back post stitch, and as you can see, it's nestled behind this bar. So we're going to do that last one. We're going to come round, go through there and pick that up, and now all we need to do is ignore this and go straight into our first proper stitch. Okay, ready to start our next row of ribbing. Okay, so I'm going to pause it here, and I'm going to carry on, and I'll come back to you once my brim is finished. Okay, so I think my band is actually wide enough, so I'm just going to slip stitch into, there's my chain, there's my first proper stitch, slip stitch into there, grab my scissors, I'm going to leave a nice long tail to sew in. Going to do 1 chain, cinch it down and pull it through, and that's how I end off. So now need to decide, really, like with my other beanies that I've made, I did these little curly whirlies. Now these ones are slightly, I've just dropped the other one on the floor, hang on a sec guys. These ones are slightly shorter, not a lot, but I made these ones just a little bit longer. It doesn't make a great deal of difference because they spiral. So I'm going to do a separate tutorial, as I said, for these. So if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and you'll be informed when that little video pops up. Well, hopefully you will. So for this particular one, you can use curly whirlies, pom-poms, anything you want, or you can leave it plain. So if you're going to leave it plain, like we turn our hat inside out, and we'll get our little darning needle. And with this one, if you're going to leave it plain, you can, as you have worked over your tail, just pull that and cinch it completely closed, and then we can sew it shut. So this one I'm going to leave plain. Okay, so we just thread all that up. Now to keep it closed, I didn't leave a very long tail, which was kind of a bit naughty of me because I usually do. I might have to do this in a couple of parts. I think I might. No, maybe not. We'll see. I'll pull it out anyway. So then I'm just going to put that end through there and pull it into a knot. Now I'm going to sew that in. So because I haven't left a particularly long tail, I'm just going to put my needle through this center piece of all of the stitches, and then I'll threadle it up again. I'm not very good at this needle threading thing. I see other people, they just push it in and the whole lot goes through. Mine always splits through, just to annoy me. So that can go round that way, and then if you want just to be extra secure, you can go through the other half. Normally I leave a much longer tail so that you know, I can just do it in one, which is much simpler. Okay, so there we are. I'll just pull that through there, and we can get our scissors and cut that off. That shouldn't come out. So now when we turn that in the right way, we've got a nice closed up end. So if you know you're not putting a pom-pom or anything like that, you can make a magic ring, magic loop, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to leave this brim slightly inside out. This has got a lovely super long tail, if you can see. And I'm just going to end by sewing this in. See what I mean? Splits for me. Other people, no problem at all. So I'm going to weave it along here a little way until I get to this vertical kind of, this is the inside of my hat, and I'm going to go down this spine by just sewing it in. You know, this goes an awful lot more simpler when I'm not on camera, right? It's always the way. So just go down the whole thing. Normally it does. Okay, don't then. We'll go bit by bit. Just wants to annoy me. It's because, oh, sorry, knocked the camera. Doing really well here, aren't I not? Okay, so we go down, and then I'm going to turn and go back up the other way. Just, there you go, that's how it works. See, it works sometimes for me. There we go, just snug into that little bit there, and then cut that off. Turn it back into the right way, and the only bit that looks like you've got a telltale sign of where that is this extra wide bit here. Sometimes it's not quite as bad as that. Like this one doesn't seem quite as wide, but this one's even less. There it is, even less. But you could, if you wanted to, use your darning needle and just sew that a little closer if it bothered you, but it really doesn't bother me to that extent. With this one, it was hardly noticeable where that was. So that's it. That's how to make the hat, the beanie on its own. Thought I'd drop my darning needle then, but I didn't. And I really like this one. This has become one of my favourites now. All these colours are just gorgeous. At one point throughout this, there it is, there's this little rainbow part that when you're crocheting, you get all those colours together. And it happened a few times when I was going around this beanie, and I'd get to that point and there was these beautiful little rainbow areas. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if the whole yarn could be like that? But I really like this yarn. I've used it a lot now, this Style Crafter More, and I don't know, it's become one of my favourites. So there we are. There it is in the berry colour and in the rainbow colour. So yeah, busy making hats. So I think if you wanted to make it for a child, it would be much really easy just to miss off one of the last increase rounds, and it would make it sort of like teenage, large child teenage size. So I think that would be really easy to do. Anyway, thank you for watching. Stay safe, everyone. Take care. And as I said, watch out for the curly whirly tutorial coming soon. Bye for now. Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks. It's Tracy here, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this. It's either a Santa hat or an elf hat, and mine is a little different from most that just go straight up. I like to taper mine a little more so that this kind of looks better at the top. I've trimmed this one with a pom-pom. I already did a child's one. It was kind of I said newborn, but it was a newborn up to kind of a kind of fitted like a large baby, because the one I made first, it was made slightly looser than the one I did on the tutorial. Just came up that way, and it fitted River, and she's nearly 2. So, but the one I made on the tutorial definitely was really kind of a smaller hat. I think I used different yarn for it, and that's why. So to be honest with you, this is an adult hat, but you can make this for a child or for someone with a larger head or a smaller head quite easily by just playing with the hook size or the yarn size. So for this one, I've used a DK yarn, because the one reason I wanted to do that was because I couldn't find too many tutorials for these kind of hats that use DK yarn. And over in the UK especially, DK is very, very prevalent. It's everywhere. So mostly you see Aran yarn. So if you follow a tutorial for someone who's made it with 4 weight, and you just kind of end up with a much smaller hat. So I wanted to do one that was predominantly like a DK hat. Now it does look really large, this one, and that's because it doesn't finish off like a hat would. It just looks kind of huge, but it isn't. And you make it to fit your head. So that's another way of making this size. Even if you're using a 4 weight yarn and a larger hook, you're going to make this band first, and you're going to make it fit the circumference of your head, whichever head that is you're making the hat for. So therefore the rest all kind of does follow suit. So this one I've made like an elf hat. I could have turned it easily into a Grinch hat, but this one I kind of just did as an elf hat. And for the next one, I'm going to just make Santa. So I'm going to use red and white. I've got more of this, don't worry, it's not all there is. So I'm going to start with the white yarn to make the brim, and that's what we're going to do first. So you'll need your yarn, and obviously it doesn't take a great deal of yarn. For this one, it didn't take very much of any one colour at all, because there were quite a lot of green, quite a lot of white and red, so it was equal amounts, and you could get away with maybe a 50-gram ball of each. I always make sure I've got more of it than I need, and possibly end up making more than one. So I've got 2 crochet hooks here, and that's because this is my favorite hook to use. I use this whenever possible, but for the red yarn you're not going to see it, so I'm going to substitute it for this one. Although they are the same make, I absolutely love the red ones. They kind of, this part here slips just the right amount for me. So, and I like the way the hooks are finished. They don't catch the yarn in any way. I used to like these ones and the rose ones best, but now this tulip red is my favorite one. So incidentally, all these hooks are available in my shop, and lots of yarn too. So if you haven't found that already, it's www.hobbyrocks.co.uk, and you can possibly find the yarn you're looking for to make this hat or any other project on a special offer, or there are voucher codes underneath the video and a link to the shop. So if you wanted to find it, you can. Regardless of when you're watching this, there's always going to be those offers going. So I'm going to clear this away and get ready to start the tutorial. So just pause it for a moment and come back to you. Okay, so if I didn't say it before, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and you'll be informed when new videos pop up. This is also going to be put up in right-handed and left-handed versions. So if this is the one, not the one you need, if this is the right-handed and you need the left, then a little thing will appear up here and you can click on it and it will take you to the other one. So you just need to make a slip knot, and you can do that any way you normally do. So this, you do need a little kind of long enough tail to sew in, and we're going to chain 10. So I'm going to do this as if I'm teaching a beginner, because that way anyone can tackle it. It's a very simple hat. So we're going to yarn over and pull through the loop on our hook, and that is our first chain. We're just going to do 10 of those. So yarning over and pulling through the loop on your hook, and that's 2. So I'm not going to count anymore. I'm just going to finish off my 10. Okay, so I'm not sure, I did show the hook, but I'm not sure if I told you it is a 4.5mm hook. So in the second chain from the hook, the one on the hook doesn't count. So this is the first one here, and there's the second. We're just going to do a UK double crochet, which is a single crochet in the US. We're just going to insert the hook into that stitch, yarn over and pull up the loop, and we'll have 2 on our hook now. So we're going to yarn over and pull through both of them. And that is a UK double or a US single, and we're going to do one in each of our chain. So we're going to go into the next one and do the same thing. Yarn over, pull up the loop, yarn over and pull through both of them. Okay, so I'm just going to get on and finish this line. Go all the way along. And I'm going to hold on to that with my little finger. We're just going to do one in each. For quite some time, this hat won't get any harder than this. Last one. We just leave our tail. Okay, so we're going to do a chain, and I like to cinch it down so I don't mistake it for a stitch, and we're going to turn our work. Now we're going to go in each of these stitches in our back loop only. So if you lift it up, you can see a V. Each stitch has a V. This is the front loop of the V, and this is the back loop. Front loop, back loop. So we are going to go into the back loop of our first stitch. Now if you haven't cinched down your chain, you might get confused as to what your first stitch is. So if you do, a way around that is to just insert your hook into the one that's facing you on this side until you're very familiar with it, and then you can just do your single crochet US or double crochet UK in that back loop, and that's all we're going to do. So if you hold it up, you'll see front loop, back loop. I'm going to go in, I'm going to do one in each one along in every single one of our chains, which you've got 9 of. If you've made 10 in the beginning and you've gone into the second one, you should have 9 stitches. Okay, so I'm going to pause it for a moment and I'll catch up with you when I get to the last one. Okay, so ordinarily I wouldn't have paused it, but I had a parcel come into the door, so I knew I had to stop it anyway. So now I'm on my last one, and you can still see the V, but sometimes it is hard to see that stitch, but you can just, if you put your hook downwards, you can catch it. So there's my last one, and you can count them if you've confused and you don't know if you've got enough. Just count the V's at the top. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now that would have been really embarrassing, wouldn't it, if I'd got 8? So I'm going to do my chain and I'm going to cinch it down, I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to go into the top of my V's again and go into the back loops only and do exactly the same thing, going into the back one and doing my row that way. And that is all we're going to do for our brim. It's as simple as it gets. Just going into those back loops. Now, a little word of warning, if you're not familiar with this, if you go down, you can pick up more than you bargain for. So do make sure when you're going into your back loop, you've only got the one loop that you're gone into, because sometimes you can pick up some of these on the underside by, you know, being a bit forceful, not watching what you're doing or whatever. So we're going to go all the way to the end, just as before. We'll do a few rows and then we can see what it looks like. So what I mean, it's sometimes harder to see. The V has got a little squashed on this one, but you can just about see the back loop there. And if you fish it, you can get in. Actually, that might not be it. Let's count them. See what I mean? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It isn't. It can be confusing. Doesn't look like I've gone into the right part. What's going on? Maybe I haven't. Maybe it's here. There we go. So sometimes it is hard to see, but if it didn't look right at the end, as it didn't for me, you'll know there's something wrong. You count your stitches, and if you've got the 9, then something isn't quite right and I'd gone into the wrong part. So that's just it's good it happened, because you can see that it can happen. So as I said, if you're confused at all, you can actually just go into the one nearest you while it's facing that way. So we'll do another row and then we'll stop and look at it. It's harder to actually do these rows when you're kind of showing people and you're doing them slower than you would. And I think I need to go down a little bit as well. There we go. Didn't want to go off camera. To get the whole stitch. No, split the yarn there. That's fine. Nearly there. And we'll just stop and have a little look. Okay, so pull that out. Now what's happening is we're making these ridges, as you can see, and on the other side the same. But I will say one side will look like it's the right side to you. Even though they are the same, one side will look the right side and one side won't when you come to do your hat. So what we're going to do is we're going to carry on going in those back loops only for quite a number of rows. Now for me, it was 82 rows that I had to do. That was the circumference of my head. But what I want to do is I want it to go around my head. Excuse the little hair there, or piece of fluff. I want it to go around my head, but not so that it fits loosely. I need it to fit around my head and pull slightly. So you want to make sure that when you measure it around the head in question, you've got a little gap like this, and it would just pull a little bit to close it. You don't want it to be tight, otherwise your hat will be loose. So you just carry on making your brim until you reach the desired width. So if you're making it the exact same as me, it will be 82 rows. Okay, so I'm going to pause it then, and I'll catch up with you when I've got my brim all done. Okay, so here we are. Here's my brim and my 82 rows, and that's what it looks like. The other one looks a little baggier, but that's probably because I've pulled it around. So now we're going to join it, and therefore I'm going to pop my hook back in to my loop, and I'm going to get my brim in a nice long untwisted vibe, and then I'm going to just take my hook out for a second, and I've got to turn it around because I need it to be, oh, that's a tail, just going to hide it because otherwise it will get in the way. And I'm going to go into this very corner of the side without the loop. I'm going to pick up that loop. I'm going to bring it through. like that. And now we're going to crochet this together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to catch just the back loop of the next stitch and go into the hole of the next stitch on the other side. So this is the loop on my hook. I've got one loop of that one and two loops of the other, and I'm just going to slip stitch through it all. I'm going to carry on doing that all the way along. Make sure you don't do it too tightly so it doesn't pucker and pull, but you want to just get those together nicely. Now it doesn't, the brim, the join won't look absolutely the same as the other ridges, but it really isn't noticeable. Not when you're wearing it. And this is just a fun hat as well, so it doesn't matter too much, but it really won't show. You always get a join of some sort in crochet. You can hide them and make them invisible joins in most things. And this is about the best way on this. So we're going in the end and in this corner. Corner stitches can be a little more fiddly to get into. And there we are, we have now joined it. So if I open it up, you'll see it does notice a little bit more, but not enough to write home about. Remember, this is our end and it'll be sewn in, and then this won't be there. So you can see it's just a tad fatter, but you wouldn't really notice it. But now you've got a band. And what we're going to do is insert our hook back in. Now, we have 82 rows in our brim and our join now, which will make 83. So all the way around this top, I'm going to pick up 83 stitches. So I'm going to start with a chain, which I will cinch down and go into the same stitch that I'm in and do one UK double, US single crochet. And now I'm going to go all the way around. Now be careful where you go into, because otherwise you will make visible holes. I'll see if I can show you what I mean. So if I went into there, that's going to make a visible hole. So what I found is if I go to the left of that, go through, I can pick it. I didn't do it. If I go to the left of it, I can go in. It's the same area, but it doesn't make a visible hole. And then I can go into the one at the side of it. It's not easy to show you on camera. And now I want to go into this side, but I'm going to just loop that top one. So I'm not going through the whole thing to make it's going through the whole thing. There we are. So we're not making like massive visible holes. And we're just going to pick up our stitches all the way along our brim. We're going to do that all the way round and just picking them up. It's simple as that. Okay, so I'm going to pause it and I will catch up with you once I've done that and I've got all of my brim. Just be careful where you're going in, because as I say, you don't want to make those big kind of visible holes. You want it to look neat. I don't like that one, so I'm going to undo it and find another one. But just pick up your stitches, one for every row, all the way around, and try not to make holes as you go. That's all you can do. I will catch up with you when I get back. If you need to, just pop in a stitch marker if you can't remember which stitch you started in. But if you've left this tail, then you should be able to see it. So I'll catch up with you when I get back to this point. I will just say, because it is kind of a fun hat, if you don't have the same amount of stitches, for instance, if when you get to the end you have, that's not where I want to go, you've got 84 stitches, or you've got 81, or if your hat is smaller, you've got less stitches. It doesn't actually matter. That's not really what this hat is about. I'm getting in a mess because I'm talking at the same time as trying to pick them up. But yeah, just pick them up evenly, so that they are nice and flat and even, and you've got the right amount going around your brim. That's all that really matters, not the stitch number. I just wanted to make that clear because I told you how many stitches I had. But this one could possibly have less than the previous or a little bit more than the previous. It just depends. So just pick them up in a nice even manner all the way around your brim, being careful not to make those holes as I mentioned. Okay, so I'll catch up with you when I've done mine. Okay, so I made it all the way round, and I just went into every single part and made sure I didn't make any holes, and I don't count my stitches. There's no point really. It's just I did on the last one just so I could let you know how many I had. But now what you may need to do is make sure that you've done one where the join is, so you can just slip stitch into that one and you haven't got a gap. So all we're going to do is slip stitch into that stitch there, and we're going to end off. So you need a pair of scissors. I'm going to leave a nice long tail. No reason to work the yarn in if you want to. I'm going to do a chain, cinch it down and pull that out. So now we have a brim. So this is the front of it and that's the back. So what we're going to do is we're just going to change our colour now to whichever colour you want. So if you're making the colour scheme like this one, then you know you can just, you'd have probably done a red border brim, and you can now start changing your colours to make stripes. You can do kind of Freddy Krueger style red and green elf stripes if you want, but I'm just going to do a plain red hat now. So I'm going to move the white out the way because I won't need that until much later, probably when I do a pom-pom. I'm going to bring in my red. Now this is quite a deep red. This one I made quite a bright red, and the baby one I did was green and red, and it was quite a bright red. I think it was the same one as this. But this one I've decided to make it a little bit on the darker side. So all we're going to do now is find the end and bring in a new colour. So I didn't do a change of colour, you know, I just thought as it was a complete rose end, it's just as simple to start a new colour just by starting a new colour. So I'm just going to pop my hook in to my stitch, which is where my join is. I'm going to bring my new colour in. Now you can join your yarn however you want, but just lately, I haven't always done it like this, but just lately I have started to just bring that forward, that new tail, and make a chain so it's tucked up inside there, and I cinch that chain down a little, and now I'm going to do a UK half treble or US half double in that stitch. So it's not going to count that chain. I'm just going to go in to the same spot and pull up my loops and yarn over and pull through all three. So I will show you properly now, if you don't know how to do a UK half treble or US half double, because that one was a little difficult to see by. I'm going to change my hook because I did say I would do that, didn't I? So that it would be easier to see. Okay, so we yarn over. It's the same size and everything, isn't it? Yeah, didn't want to make a mistake. Yarn over, and we're going to go into the next stitch, but we're going to go into the 2 loops like usual. Yarn over and pull up the loop. We've got 3. Yarn over and pull through all 3 of them. So we're going to yarn over, go into the next stitch, going through the 2 loops, not a back loop this time. Yarn over, pull up the loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. And that is all we're going to do in every single stitch all the way around our hat. But the reason we do the first row in the white is because we will get this line of where it looks like you've got a little jagged edge. You will get that. But if you were going into the top of the brim, then that would be very uneven. So our first row will always be the same colour as the brim, just to even that off and give us a nice straight edge to do our first row of stitches in. Okay, so I'm going to pause it then, because all we're doing is UK half trebles or US half doubles in every single stitch all the way around. So I'm going to carry on. I'll pause it and I'll catch up with you when I get back to this point. Okay, so I'm almost there, almost back to the start, and I'm going to go into my last stitches. Now for this next part, I have actually gone into both those stitches, so it looks a little bit, let me just join it and see what happens. I'm going to join it with a slip stitch into my first stitch, and I'll see if that actually looks like there's a gap. It's not too bad, that's fine. It's just that there isn't a stitch in between there, I don't think. I've got my glasses on, and the fact is, because it's white, it's hard to see sometimes. But is there a stitch there? No. Okay, so I'm going to join into this first stitch with a slip stitch. And if you, like me, you cinch down your chain, then you'll be able to see that that's your stitch. Now this is where it gets a little tricky, because every other row we're going to start our row slightly different. The first row is the first way we're going to do it. This row is the second way. And what that will do is it will make our seam more or less invisible. I mean, if you look at this hat and you go all the way around it, you can't see the seam. It's invisible. And that's because I staggered the actual, I think it's here. I think it's, no, it's not. Is that good? You can't see it. And we do that by staggering our start and end point. So this time round, we're going to do a chain and we're not going to cinch it. And then we're not going to go into this same stitch that we did before. We're going to go into this next one, which is here. We're going to yarn over and make that our first stitch. And then we're going to go into every single one all the way around. And I'm just the same. And this is all we do, this stitch. It's now, I'm going to get a knock at the door, guys. So I'm going to pause it and I will catch up with you when I get back to this point and show you what to do next. Okay, so I've made it all the way around. And now I only have these stitches here. So this one is where my chain has come out. So I'm going to go in there. I'm going to do my stitch, and then I'm going to ignore this chain and I'm going to slip stitch into the next one along. I hope you can see it. I've put the light on just to I'm going to zoom in. Okay, so I've gone into the stitch where this one comes out of my chain, and I'm going to ignore that chain. I'm going to slip stitch into this stitch, and what that's going to do is it's going to pull it over to stop the seam, because I don't know if you've noticed, when you do a seam on a round crochet, it will slant up like that, and that's going to stop it. So that, it did seem a bit strange, but it will work. So now we're going to do our chain, cinch it down, and we're going to do our stitch in the same stitch we've just come out of, and we're going to go in each one around. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to alternate. We're going to alternate those two rows, so that, I do apologise, I've got the water company outside, so it might get noisy. Hopefully not. That's who was knocking at the door. But I've just pulled some yarn out, so hopefully everything's going to be fine. So we're going to alternate. We're going to do, oh, I'm really zoomed, aren't I? Let's unzoom. Make sure we're still rolling, because sometimes that stops it. But we're going to do one straight stitch, if you like, and one where we're going into our chain space, you know, the one where the chain comes out, and then we're going into the first actual stitch, pulling it back over. We're not pulling it physically, but that's what in effect our action is doing. So now we're just going to go in one of every stitch around, doing our half treble, half double crochet, and we're going to get back to this point here, and I'll just recap with you what we're doing. Okay, so we're almost back at the beginning. I've got a few stitches to do. Okay, so there we are, that we're back. this is our first stitch. I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that one because that is the actual stitch rather than, oops, didn't come out, rather than a chain because I cinched my chain down. So now we're going to do a chain but not cinch it, and we're going to go into the next one along, and we're going to do that, like I say, those 2 rounds. We're just going to repeat those all the way around, and we're going to do a total of 8 rows. So we're not going to increase, decrease, do anything. We're just going to stagger our join, and we're going to just do 1 in each for 8 rows, and you can easily count those. 1, 2, 3. This is the 4th row. I'll pause it then, and I'll come back to you once I've got my 8 rows. Okay, so I'm all the way back, and I've done my 8 rows, and this is how it's looking. So if I just take my hook out, it's kind of looking nice, and it is tapering slightly, but that's fine. It's hat, so we want it to, but yeah, looking good. So what we're going to do now, we're going to start decreasing and making this part of our hat. So we're kind of on this one, it was quite simple. It was just one lot of each color, and now we're going to start pulling it in and making the kind of hat shape. Okay, so I'm going to chain 1, cinch it down, and do my first stitch, and we're going to do 6. So that's including that one. Okay, now we're going to do a decrease. So it's either half treble 2 together or half double 2 together, depending on where you're from. We're going to yarn over, go into our first stitch and pull up a loop, and then we're just going to go into the next stitch and pull up a loop. So we have 4 in our hook, yarn over and pull through all of them. Well, that split, didn't it? I'm having a bit of trouble with this hook splitting this yarn. These hooks don't normally split, but they're splitting this yarn. Okay, I'll do that again. Okay, better that time. So now we're going to do the same again. We're just going to do 6. It does really split. I've got a feeling there's something a little bit wrong with this hook, you know. It seems to be a little sharp. That's why I prefer the other one, I think. I think it might have a little defect. I guess everything has defects in manufacture. Hooks shouldn't be any different, I guess. So now we're going to decrease again. So it's yarn over, go in and pull up our loop, go into the next stitch, just not yarning over, and pull up the loop. So we've got 4 and pull through all of them. Now we're going to do 6. And decrease. And then 6. And we're going to do that until we can't do it anymore. Now on my other hat, on my last decrease after that, we're nearly round over then. On my last one, I had 8 stitches. Maybe different for this one. This one might not have the same amount of stitches, so we'll see. It doesn't really matter what remainder you're left with. As long as it fits you, that's all that matters. Just doing 6 and a decrease all the way around. If I have to pause it at any time, then just bear with me. It's because those water people are still outside. But I'll stay with you all through this round anyway. And remember, you won't necessarily have the same amount of stitches as me at the end, but that doesn't matter. It depends how many you successfully pull up. I'm going to have to pause it. I'll be right back. This is a parcel. It's that time of year, isn't it, when you just get lots of interruptions. So that was 3. Obviously I'm making a Christmas hat, so you can't help getting Christmas packages through the mail. I shouldn't have far to go, really. Need to pull some yarn. How many did I do? 1. There we are. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have 10 stitches now. So I can do a 6 and then a decrease and then have a remainder. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, now I've got a little knot in my yarn. Typical. I've managed to undo it. So I'm going to just join with a slip stitch to my first stitch. So now we're going to do these decreases, but at the same time we're going to keep the integrity of our straight edge. So this time I'm going to chain 1 and my first stitch will be in here. And we're just going to do 1 whole round without any decreasing. So we're going to just do 1 in each. That will pull it together nicely. So just 1 in every single stitch, and then when you get back around, go into the same stitch as your chain and slip stitch into your first stitch as normal. I think actually there's my chain, so I'll be slip stitch into that one. So I'm going to go all the way around and I'll meet up with you when we get to this stitch here. Okay, so back again, and is that my, yep, got to go into my last, well, where my stitch came out of, and into my first real stitch to close that up. Okay, so that's now pulling in nicely. So this next round, just need to pull some yarn out before we start. My water board are going to be making a noise. I don't know whether to do this now or leave it a little while. I'm going to pause it just for a little while because I'm not sure what kind of noise that's going to make on my video. So I'll just pause it for a little while. It will be instantaneous for you, but hopefully that motor will be gone by the time I come back. Hi, I'm back again. It's a good job I paused it. It was very loud. They've gone away for half an hour, so while they're gone, we'll carry on. So this time we are going to do another row of decreases, but we are going to do 5 before we do our two together. So this round is, oh, I can't remember if that one, now I can't remember if that was one of those where I join, it was right over there. Yep, there we go. Only because I had a big gap between. So now I'm going to cinch my chain and do 1 in there, and I'm going to do 5, then a decrease, and then just go into however many I've got at the end. We've got BT now. Can't believe it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All go. Seems to be utilities day. I don't think they're going to knock here though. But then again, who knows? Okay, so you don't need me to stay with you on this round because it's exactly the same as the row we did beneath this one, except instead of doing 6, we are doing 5 and then our decrease. So I'm going to pause it then. You can go all the way around, and whatever you've got left as a remainder after your last decrease, then just do those and join it when you get to the end. Okay, for me, if I did another decrease, it would be right on top of my join, so I'm not going to do any more. That was my last 5, so I'm just going to carry on until I get to the end. So that's kind of what I mean about just going into the last ones. Okay, so I'm just going to join it with a slip stitch, and the next round then is just 1 in every one all the way around, just as we did after our last increase. We did the 1 without anything. So that's what I'm going to do in this next round, and I'm going to keep the system at the seam. So my next one will be going into just 1 chain and going into the next one. So I'm going to go all the way around and come back to the start and catch up with you once again. Okay, so I've made it all the way around, and I'm just going to go into the same stitch as my chain came out of, and then after my chain I'm going to just slip stitch into my first real stitch, and that's keeping my seam nice and straight. So now we've done our 6 and then a decrease and then a 5, then a decrease. We're going to do 4 now. So all you need to remember is, if you're making it stripy, to keep the stripes the same, to change colour when you need to change colour. I did 4, as I said, but you can do 3, you can do a bigger band, you can do a thinner red stripe going through it if you want, as long as you keep the stripes and the integrity of that going. And that is true as we're tapering up this long bit that's going to dangle. Your dangly. As we're tapering up the dangly, you want to be able to make sure that you finish on 4 rows. Now the last one's very small, and it does get quite tricky to go around these as you get further in, but yeah, it's not that difficult. It's just a little bit fiddly is the word. Okay, so now we're going to chain, cinch it down. You might be on a different round. It doesn't matter. Whatever whatever row you're on, whether it's going into the next one, we're going to do 4 and then our decrease. So that's our first one, and we're going to do 2, 3, 4. Whoops! Only went in half of the stitch, and we're going to do our decrease in the next one, and we're going to do that all the way around. And if we've got enough to do 4 decrease and then the remainder, we're going to do that. Otherwise, if there's say 6 left, we're just going to go into those last ones, and I shall then do 1 row without any decrease. So we're going to do a row with 4 in between our decreases, and then 1 row without decreasing at all. And if you have to change colour within that, then obviously do that. And I will catch up with you when I get to the end of my row without decrease. Okay, so I thought I'd just stop at that point and take a look at it. And we've got this closing up quite nicely, but we don't want to close it up too much because we want it to just continue. So that's what it's looking like anyway. So what I'm going to do now is, for my next round, I'm going to repeat the last decrease round, and you don't have to. You can carry on from this point, but I like it to not be quite so fat when it starts to just finish up. You know, when you get this long part, I'm not really keen on it just being, I like a little almost funnel like vibe. So I'm going to do 4 again between my decreases, and then 1 row of just half trebles to the end, and then I'll meet up with you again when I get back to the start. So we're repeating the row with 4 between our decreases, and then 1 row without decrease, and I'll come back to you. Okay, so here we are again. And now we've got an opening of, I've got 43 stitches, which is exactly, strangely enough, what I had for the last one, because I wrote it down on my pad. So now I'm going to continue without any decrease at all for 10 rounds. So if you're changing colour, likewise, keep the 4 rows or however many rows you're doing of your colour in that 10 rows. So keep in line and make sure that you're doing everything that you were doing. So I'm going to come back to you once I've done 10 rows without any further shaping at all. If you want to, you can pop in a stitch marker so you can see which one was your beginning row, and then you can count up that you've done 10, because otherwise it might get a little bit difficult to see which was your first row of the ones without decrease. So I've got a stitch marker here somewhere. Here we go. I'm just going to pop that in, and I'll know when I've done my 10 rows. And then, as I said, I will come back to you. Okay, so now we've got our 10 rows, or however you've done. You can remove this stitch marker and put it aside. Sorry if I'm a bit croaky. I've not been that well today. So here we go. This is the back of our work. Just to put it side by side, and we're now on this last little tapered section. But just a little word that if you wanted to, you could make this part as long as you wanted. So you could do more rows along here, or you could, once you get to this part, you could just extend it outward a bit more and just make it as long as you want. Have it come right down to your waist if you want to, if you've got enough yarn and if you think you fancy it. But I'm just going to carry on with this one, the same pattern as before. My water people are back, so it is going to get extremely loud, so I'm going to abandon this one for now, and it will be instantaneous for you, but I'm going to have to come back to you once they're finished. Okay, they're finally gone. It's all done. Thank goodness for that. No more interruptions for me. Okay, so now we are going to do 10 stitches before we do a decrease. So this one is, we obviously keep our edge the same. So we're going to do 10. This is where it gets awkward going round. I don't know if you've noticed. It gets worse. When I talk, I lose count. Just count them. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It doesn't matter if you've got more stitches, less stitches, or you do 9 there. It kind of, it will work out. So don't worry too much. Don't get hung up on numbers. So we're going to do another 10. And then our decrease. And we're going to do another 10. Oh, I think I might have moved my camera. Sorry about that. Need to pull that whole yarn. This ball is getting low, but I think I've got just enough to finish it. Got more anyway. I think it's one more. I'll just do it in my decrease now, it doesn't matter, because after that one we're just going to decrease to the very end, and then we're going to do our join it together. And I think that I just need to check my notes. Bear with me a sec, because I wrote this as I went. I'll turn the page. I think it is 1 in every stitch without decreasing. Yep. Okay. So the next row is just 1 in every single stitch, no decreasing. So I'm going to pause it and I'll come back to you once I've done that row. Okay, so I'm all the way around, and in this one we're going to do 4. So I'm going to do my first one. I'm going to do 4 stitches. And then a decrease. And that's drastically different from 10. But that's because I don't want this to go too skinny. So we're going to do 4. And then decrease. Of course, it's so much easier when you're not doing it on a camera. Hang on a second. I think I might need to go up a little bit. It's a bit difficult to swivel this at the same time as crochet it. Just try and move the whole thing round. Okay, so we're just going to do 4 and then a decrease in every one. So I'm going to carry on doing that, and then however many I'm left with, I'm just going to go into those and then do a join. I'll come back to you once I've done that. Okay, not forgetting to keep your stripes the same colour if you're striping. I'm going to do 2 rows without any decreasing at all. So I'm going to complete those and I'll come back to you once we've got there. Okay, so this is what it's looking like. This is the back. So this is our join all the way up here. You can see it's nice and kind of more or less invisible. It's harder to see it on the other one that changes colour. So this row again, we're going to do the last 3 rows again. So that is, we're going to do 4 and our decrease, 4 and our decrease, and we're going to fit as many of those as we can in. I would say we'll only do like 2 or 3 of them at the most, and then the next 2 rows will be without decrease. So and keeping your stripes if you're striping, and keeping your seam the same. So this row is 4 then a decrease, 4 then a decrease, possibly 4 and then all the way around. I think that will work out, and then 2 rows without decrease. So I'm going to get on and do those and I'll come back to you. Okay, so this is how far we've got and we're nearly at the end. So from now on, we're going to do 4 and do our decrease, and then 4 and then our decrease. And we're going to do that until we can't do that anymore in this round. And then we're going to do 2 rows without decrease. Then we're going to do 4 and our decrease, 4 and our decrease until we can't do any more. And then 2 rows without decrease. And we're going to keep our stripes and our seam. And then we're going to do that for, hang on a moment, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, for 6 rows then. So that what's 2 decrease, well, so 1 decrease row, 2 without, 1 decrease row, 2 without, and then I'll come back to you. As you can see, we're right near the end now. So what we can do at this stage, if we want to, is just carry on for as long as we possibly want this to be. Or if you wanted to taper it longer, instead of doing 2 rows of without decrease, you could just do like 3. But I didn't want it to look too stepped. And I think if you just do 2, it does taper quite nicely. This yarn was actually, for some reason, a lot more drapey than this one. Must have been just slightly different. But so this one is a little bit narrower than the other, but not a great deal. So you can carry on for a little while if you want without shaping. It is hard to get around now though, guys, isn't it? But so we're getting near the end. So I'm just going to carry on and without shaping for another, I'd say about 5 or 6 rows. It really depends where you're at with your stripe, because you want the last part to have 4 rows. Even the last row, which is pulling it all together, needs to sort of be within that colour. So you need to kind of carry on and make sure that your last section still has the 4 rows of colour if you're striping. Okay, so I'm going to carry on and I'm going to just do, without any shaping at all, another, let's see, 7 rows. Okay, so now we need to close this up, and for that you're going to need a couple of rows. So whatever, if you're striping, I'm just pulling some yarn out, what you need to do is make sure that your last couple of rows are, you know, where you're going to end. So you can taper this over 3 rows, or you can do it over the last 2. It really depends on how many stitches you have left at the end of this. So I'm going to just decrease in every stitch around, and we're going to drastically reduce our stitches. It gets very difficult to turn it when you're on a table, but we'll carry on. Can't even find it. There we are. Just keep going round. I'm not so sure I did that one right. Looks like I did. It's getting twisted, that's why, as I'm going round. Okay, so I'm nearly there. It's getting difficult because they're getting a bit long looking. Okay, so there's my last one. I'm going to join to the first one of the previous, like the first one of that round rather, the previous round. What am I talking about? Okay, so now the last row, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to just decrease in every stitch if you can find them. It's not that easy because they are there. Just this is pulling it together nicely. Let's just turn it around a bit. I don't think we'll need to sew this closed. It, oops, does help to not drop the stitch. Oh, I did it again. Can you believe it? Because wouldn't happen if I wasn't sitting here like this. But, you know, workmen always blame their tools. So the saying goes. I think this is my last one. It's hard to see on a camera, so I'm just going to have to If it goes out of shot, I do apologise, but I can't. I'm going to have to do it close up. So I think I might be there, you know. Okay. I think I am. Let's just check that out. Okay, so I can't really go any further. It's just got very small at the top there. So all I'm going to do now is join it. Do I even need to? I don't think I even need to, but I'm going to just finish off because I know that there's a slip stitch there to join. I'm going to do one chain, cinch it down. I'm going to leave a nice long tail and end off, because when it comes to it, I'm going to put a pom-pom on there, just like this one, which I haven't made yet. And I'm going to push it through, and then I'm going to use this. I'm going to have that on the inside. I'm going to use that to really tie it on there before I sew all my ends in. And then once I've sewn all the ends in, if the pom-pom was the same colour, you can hide them in this, which is what mine were. I could just, the ends of the pom-pom could just lose them in this. I haven't trimmed this off completely yet, as you can see, but yeah, all I need to do now is sew this end in along the bottom, and all I'll do is I'll go up this seam and down a couple, like up the seam and down, bury the tail in the seam, and then this one I will just leave until I've made the pom-pom. So I don't usually do the pom-pom on like a tutorial, because I do feel like my pom-poms leave a lot to be desired. I'm not the best pom-pom trimmer in the world, but if there was enough interest in that, then I would make a pom-pom and show you how I attach it. I'll leave that up to you guys, but I'm sure you will know how to make a pom-pom. So if there's any rows where it just needs to be pulled out a little bit to stop it looking stepped, then do that. But that's it. That's the hat. All you need to do is add the pom-pom, but you can make this as long as you like. In fact, the longer the better, I think. But I didn't really have much yarn left for this one. Where are we? That's all I had. So I was beginning to worry about whether I'd have enough to finish it and not start a new ball, which was earmarked for something else. So I didn't really want to go too long. But yeah, I really like them quite long. As long as it's not for a baby, then I think that's fine. I mean, obviously, for a baby or a young child, you wouldn't want it so long that there was a danger they could hurt themselves or get it round their neck in any way. But if it came down to just past their ear, then that would be fine. But for an adult who should know better, really, then that will be fine. So thanks for watching. Just a note on sizing then. If you wanted to make this larger or smaller, that's ever so easy to do by using different yarn, different hook size. So you could carry on with the same stitch count, make it with an Aran 4-weight yarn, and it would be bigger. If you wanted it smaller, then just drop down the crochet hook size. I've got a 4.5, but you could drop that right down. It would make it more compact a little bit, or you could even reduce it to a sport weight yarn, or which I don't really like working with very thin yarns, but you could, if you wanted to, drop down the yarn size and the hook size. But with a DK weight, quite often I'll use a 375 upwards, so you can drop it down a little bit more. But to be honest with you, I'm winding this yarn up as we speak. The brim, making the brim fit the head first, will kind of make this hat fit any size, really. You could go any size you want, but let's turn it round. This is the back. Yeah, so this back, all I will do is sew that end in. I like the seam. It's hardly noticeable, and yeah, I kind of like that. But there we are. That's it. It's all finished. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, everyone, and I'll see you soon.